So welcome, AVFC members. Appreciate everybody joining. As we sent out in the email, we're going to do a session on the FAA Wings program and how it can benefit you. So we'll be walking through basically how to get started on it and how it benefits you as a club member in AVFC Flying Club. So FAA Wings program. So we're going to cover a couple things on the FAA Wings program. So what is it? Why should I, as a pilot, participate in it? I'm sure some of you have heard about it. Maybe some of you thought about considering it. But a lot of folks don't really understand what the benefits of the Wings program are. So we'll talk about that. And then the third part is how do I participate in the FAA Wings program? So what's involved? How do I get signed up? And how do I take advantage of it? So the FAA Wings program was created as a pilot proficiency program. So, and I won't read the text here verbatim, but it's based on the premise that pilots who maintain currency and proficiency are going to enjoy a better experience and also are going to be safer pilots. And many of you, you'll go practice and go what I like to call the flight to nowhere, and you go out to the practice area and practice things, or maybe you go for the $100 hamburger. You're only doing training typically maybe once every 2 years when you get that BFR, or maybe you decide one day you might, you want to go up with a CFI for some proficiency, or you're not comfortable on, say, something like crosswind landing. So, but the FAA Wings program is designed, if you do periodic training to provide you the ability to actually get some benefit out of that. The other main objective of the program is to address the primary accident factors that plague general aviation. And I don't know if any of you have seen a YouTube channel called Probable Cause with Dan Grider, and I'm not making a plug for Dan, but he does have some unique points that he makes on his channel around the common things that cause accidents. And a lot of those things are things like botched go-arounds, unstable approaches, things like that. Inadvertent flight into IMC, and also things like runway loss of control. So the Wings program is set up to designed to address those primary accident factors and kind of give you a vehicle beyond the VFR to actually maintain that training. And I see Nathan. Can anyone see the chat? Yes, I can see the chat. So it is working.
I was getting a report that the chat wasn't working for folks. So I was just, while you're going, I'll just diagnose that on the side.
Oh, perfect. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that.
Yep.
So the other thing about the Wings program is it's not just a simple award program, but a true proficiency program. And we'll kind of break that down exactly. What does that mean? And the other thing is with the Wings program, there's opportunities to complete online courses. So some of you may subscribe to other courses along the way. I know AOPA does safety things, Sporties has safety classes. Some of it's recurrent training that you pay for. Some of it's for free stuff. But the cool thing is a lot of those classes out there, a lot of the what I would call seminars, webinars that a lot of these organizations offer, you can leverage those in the Wings program. I'm actually a member of a group called Pilot Workshops, and they have a variety of things. I'm actually in their instrument training, and they do a lot of scenario-based programs where they put you in a scenario and they ask you, how would you react to that? And they give you some questions on how you react. And the good thing is on that, on a lot of these programs, is if you complete those programs, you actually can get some Wings credit. And we'll talk about that as well. So proficiency training, obviously know it works. We see it in sports. I mean, athletes have to train and practice all the time to stay proficient and avoid injury. Obviously in the medical profession, it's a key factor. I don't think I'd want to have any kind of surgery done from a doctor that wasn't current and proficient. And of course, the main applicability to us here is in the Part 121 world. So, as a lot of you know, in the Part 121 world, the airline guys and regional airline guys, they have to do recurrent training every 6 months. That's a requirement. So that's why between that and a multi-crew environment is why they typically have a much better safety record than we do in general aviation. So the other thing about proficiency training is we know it works. So it increases confidence with you as a pilot. And I would also say it also increases comfort. I mean, I know back when I was an early instrument pilot, I think the thought of launching into IMC, after I got that brand new ticket, was pretty daunting task, and probably the same for for folks that just got a private pilot's license, and you're going to take that long cross country. Maybe you want to take a trip, weekend trip with a friend or whatever, and you just don't feel like you're up to snuff. You've done it before in the training, but you're not feeling the total competence as far as making that trip. Um, this is something that could actually help with that. The other thing is it expands horizons as far as your knowledge goes. So, they say the private pilot's license is a license to learn, but that's where everything starts. And I would say actually most any certificate that you get, whether it be commercial instrument, CFI, they're all licensed to learn new things. But by doing recurrent training, you expand your horizons and you actually learn about things that maybe weren't covered in the training. The two biggest things for us, though, is all this stuff helps keep us safe. So by doing this training and doing more recurrent training, we lower the risk of, again, as I was saying, the most common accidents or incidents that we run into. So again, runway loss of control, botch go-arounds, crosswind landings. Those are some of the key things that I see. And if you look at general aviation accident statistics from the NTSB, we will you'll see a lot of that as well. So one of the biggest things as far as from a safety perspective, proficiency training is, one of the big benefits of the club. And some of you know that we actually had a couple incidents in the past few years, and I think both of them were around runway loss of control. So while obviously our key focus here is keeping everybody safe, the other thing about proficiency training that's going to help the club out is going to reduce the risk in aero ventures so we can keep our insurance costs down. And I don't know if any of you guys read the publications around insurance, but insurance costs for general aviation have been going up like crazy in the past few years. We on the club have to shop around, every year to see if we can come up with better insurance rates. Any sort of accident or incident that we have to file a claim is going to increase the insurance rates and also could potentially result in increase in the cost of the hourly cost of the airplanes or increase in dues. So, key safety benefits in the proficiency training here. So as we talked about proficiency training, why participate in wings? Proficient pilots are, confident. I mean, if you're more proficient at doing something, you're going to feel much more up to doing the task. Again, I use the example of the cross country training, better aeronautical decision making. Again, with experience and competence comes better safety, better decision making. Hey, the other thing is better stick and rudder skills. Again, I know a lot of pilots, the weekend warriors will like to go out and don't fly a whole lot, and then you're out there and maybe have to deal with a strong crosswind or a difficult situation like that, and you just don't quite feel up to the task. Practicing those things on a regular basis is going to prove that, make you a more competent pilot. The other thing is more capable at dealing with the unexpected. I know in instrument training, I'm always planning not only for what I would call a plan B for alternates, but a plan C, so to speak. And what I mean by that is, where am I going to make decisions along the way on a cross country to divert based on weather or other conditions, or am I going to make a decision early to divert to a different airport versus going to my destination based on could be weather conditions or something else. So again, proficiency training keeps you guys more capable at making those kind of decisions. And the other thing I'll say about that is it makes, I use this coin from a guy who wrote a lot of books on IFR flying called Gary Reeves. And he talks about mastery makes emergencies manageable. And, the key takeaway for me on that, and I, as an instructor and also as somebody that's an avid instrument pilot, I always like to think that, hey, if you practice emergencies more often, and in instrument flying, it could be something like, what if I had a complete electrical failure in the airplane and I had to navigate and say fly an approach using ForeFlight and a Stratus or a Sentry GPS. If you've never practiced anything like that, it's going to become an all-out, I would say, panic attack. And we all know that in flying, panic does not lead to good decision making, put you in a position where you're going to make irrational decisions and put you in a very uncomfortable spot, which could lead to an accident or incident or impact your safety. So all these things are benefits to proficiency training in the FAA Wings program, but there's more to this. And if you complete the FAA Wings training program, you will get credit for a biannual flight review. You can get a BFR out of completing the Wings program, and we'll talk about the details on what's involved in completing the Wings full Wings program. Carry on. So, how do I get started with FAA Wings? So, first thing you're going to do is go to the FAAsafety.gov website, and I'll maybe show that as we get through this here. Show a little bit of that. And you're going to go ahead and sign up and create an account if you don't already have an account on the FAAsafety.gov website. Incidentally, I know everybody pretty much these days uses IACRA, so it's not the same login as your IACRA. So you actually do have to create a separate login for the FAAsafety.gov website. So once you do that, you'll go in, you kind of set up a profile on yourself. In other words, what certificates and ratings do you have? I actually omitted that step in there. But you'll go ahead and set that up. And the reason we do that is because then the FAA and the Wings website knows what courses to assign to you that would be applicable to the category or the race certificate and rating that you have. So you're going to go ahead and sign up. You're going to complete your profile, and then you're going to take and complete knowledge activities to earn knowledge credits. So on the FAA safety.gov website, there's a course catalog that has a lot of courses, and I'll actually show what it recommended for me, since I haven't done the Wings program in probably about a year. But I'll show what courses are recommended. But you can also, as I said, in the beginning, you can go to AOPA, pilot workshops, again, Sporties, King Schools. A lot of those have courses that will qualify for Wings knowledge credit. Some of those courses are at no charge, but some of those, like if you pay for, say, a BFR knowledge course, I'm not 100% sure on all that, but a lot of those courses that you pay for can also count for Wings credit. The other thing is, if you don't take the course through the FAA website, any affiliated organization will have a section at the end when you complete the training activity to go ahead and register for Wings credit. So in the case of my example with pilot workshops, I can go complete one of their scenarios for instrument training, and then at the end, it'll allow me to put in my email that I use for my FAAsafety.gov website, and then within a day or so, it'll show up on that website that I took a knowledge course, and I'll get the credit for that. So that's the knowledge portion of that. So you're going to go in and sign up, take 3 courses. Again, you can do that on the FAA's safety.gov website, or you can go outside of organizations like AOPA, Sporties, etc., to take those classes. The second part of this is you complete 3 flight activities for 3 credits. And I have in there, of course, our club CFIs, but it could be any CFI. And incidentally, there's no special training or anything required for a CFI that does this. But so any of the club CFIs actually can do this. And the other thing, just a few comments about the flight activities. 1 credit does not necessarily equal 1 hour flight training. And I'll show some examples here in a few minutes of what those training activities might be that you could see on the FAA.gov website. But you'll go ahead and pick those. Actually, the FAA, the website will suggest some to you. And then once you pick those, you get with your instructor and you review those. And one of these things could be, hey, just on go-arounds, or it could be on different types of landing. So the neat thing about this is a lot of stuff that you might go out and practice on your own to stay current is something you could get with a CFI and leverage the Wings program and get credit for that. The second part of the flight activities, the CFI signed your logbook, And there's some standard phraseology in there for the endorsement. And then there's also when you complete the flight training activity, you actually go in and request for the CFI that did the training to actually give you credit for that. So once those 3 knowledge credits are done and the 3 flight activities are done, you have completed a wings training program, and you will qualify for your or get your BFR. So again, how do I do this? Here's a screenshot of the FAA safety.gov website. So if you go there, you'll see you can create an account. It's pretty straightforward. It takes only a few minutes. And the other interesting thing, as you'll notice on here, is you can, once you sign up, you can also register for things like upcoming seminars. They could be webinars in the area by putting your zip code in there and a search radius. Some things like the EAA will do things where that'll count towards a wings credit, or it could be an online thing that could be available. But when you go ahead and register, if you put upcoming seminars, put your zip code in there, it'll give you notification of anything locally in the area that you could actually attend in person, and also make suggestions for webinars as well. As I was saying a few minutes ago, once you sign up, this is a screenshot of where you go to kind of set up your profile and the website. So this is an example, of course, of mine. So airplane, single, multi-engine, and then I have my certificates and ratings on there. So again, by putting those things in there, the FAA will make suggestions around those. You also see some other tabs on there, and I'm happy to show a little bit of that as well. But seminar preferences, things like that, are all in there. And once you do that and you get everything, you're signed up and you set your profile up, you're going to see things like this. So if I go actually into my wings profile, as you see, I actually took a flight instructor refresher course that I completed in 2023. And then the other thing at the bottom, the FAA has recommended some flight activities for me. So takeoffs, climbs, approaches, landings, slow flight, and they're recommending some of this these are all single engine, but if I have a multi-engine rating, they could recommend that as well. If you want to do something different, you see on the search bar down at the bottom of the screen, find alternate activities. So if you say, you know what, I feel pretty proficient at doing, takeoffs and go arounds. I practice that all the time. I'd like to do something else. You can pick different activities in here. And then again, once you do that, you can get with your CFI and you can go through that stuff. So as I stated a few minutes ago, some of these things are things you practice all the time. A lot of the things are actually things you would do on a BFR. Air work, takeoffs, landings, go around, emergency procedures. The emergency procedures could be any number of things. I mean, we always think about, lost engine, but I mean, how many people have actually practiced an emergency descent? Probably have. I know I haven't done anything like that in quite a while. What would you do if you had an in-flight fire in the cockpit? I mean, we go up and we do the BFR, and a lot of times what we end up practicing is the engine out on takeoff, or the engine out when you're en route. So, but all these other activities don't get practiced. These are things that you as a pilot in the wings program could go ahead and practice with your CFI and become proficient. So the point is, things that you guys go up and do on a regular basis, hey, why not get with an instructor and go up and practice these things and hone those skills and be better, get credit for it, and then that can translate into getting a biennial flight review. So as I was talking about a minute ago, after you do the flight portion, you'll go in and there's a section for pilots, and you see here, you go in and request the activity. So you'll put the date completed of the flight activity, and you'll need to know the email of your flight instructor, which for all the flight instructors in the club should be pretty easy to get because it's on our club website. So if you do, one of our instructors, get their email address and do that training. And then once you complete that training, you'll go ahead and make the request. The instructor will get a notification from the FAA safety.gov website. all they have to do is log in and validate that training, and then you get credit for that training. So that's how you complete the flight activity portion of this and get credit for that. But there's one more cool thing about this. So other thing about the Wings program is if you get a new certificate or rating, you can also get credit as well. And I don't recall this being something that was in place when I participated in the Wings program. It's been a little while for me, but you can actually get credit for the Wings program by getting your private pilot certificate, getting commercial. This is a screenshot of just one of the things for certificates, but I know instrument ratings on there. I think flight instructor. So pretty much any additional rating that you get into your certificate, or if you add a new certificate, you can do that as well. So question popped up in the chat room: can we get retroactive credit? So we went up with a club CFI a month ago and did some air work. How far back can we claim activity? That's a good question. I think what you'd have to do, Jack, is you'd have to go in and pick the activity that you did with the instructor, and then you and the instructor would agree that you actually completed those tasks. And if you actually click on the activity in there, say the flight activity, let's just say as an example, it's takeoffs and landings. So if you worked on that with an instructor and you completed the tasks that are in that flight activity under the Wings program, then I don't see why you could not get credit. I'm going to throw that out there for Nathan as well, to have him, since he's our safety team representative, if he says otherwise.
Yeah, you can. I don't know if there's a date limit on it. So if you want to get credit, just click request credit. The email will get sent to the CFI, and they just click a button, and it's just like that. I wouldn't think there. Yeah, I think you could probably go back more than a few months if you needed to.
Yeah, I know the knowledge credit, I think, is good for a year. So if you do one of the knowledge courses, that is actually good for a year. And I know sometimes the flight activities or these activities might be spaced out because of people's, job work, things like that, personal activities. But I think as long as those things are done within a year, yes. So to answer your question, Jack, obviously I don't think you'd want to go too far back because it kind of defeats the purpose of proficiency. But yeah, if you did something about a month ago and that aligned with one of the flight activities, in the FAA safety.gov portal for the Wings portal, then yes, you could go back and get credit for that. So more questions on the Wings program. So the FAA also has created a document that explains everything. Again, I kind of covered the high points of how to get started, how to create an account, how to do the training, the knowledge training, and how to do the flight portion of the training. But the FAA does have a manual on that, and it has a section in there for instructors. Although, again, nothing really complicated about it. But they do have a document if you have questions about it, and explains in detail each one of the sections on there. So next steps for you club members out here. Here's an opportunity to get involved. So again, pretty easy. Create the account, take some knowledge courses, pick the flight training activities, get with a club CFI, and then submit and earn your Wings biennial flight review. And again, this actually counts towards a BFR. So if you complete this training, when everything is done, it is the equivalent of a biennial flight review. And the Wings portal actually keeps track of that for you if you log into that.